Hi, this is Graphically Alex coming at you with all things fat related. If that's something that interests you, please subscribe. I'd love to have you. And today we have somewhat breaking news. Thank you to my source that told me this right away. Apparently, Fat Liberation London is dying, I guess, or something's happening. So I haven't gotten the tea yet. I wanted to save my reaction for when I was going to film. But this is news. My first thoughts are just like, I don't even know how to say it right, but I guess just that I'm not totally shocked by this. I have told you guys so many times that I feel like the fat acceptance movement, particularly in the UK, like it's so deeply astroturfed in a way that is just not at all acceptable to British people, basically. I don't know what else to say. Like, it's just not going to happen. And I almost, well, I don't know. Like, the way that fat activists act like America is, that's more so how, like, the UK is being towards fatness, where it's like I think they are actually having different numbers and stuff, but it's still slow. These trends are really slow, but it's like, if anything, the astroturfed push for fat acceptance in the UK has caused like a backlash to it, even more than what it already was. It's just not a thing. And I think the best they could have hoped for in the UK was just apathy. So there's probably enough pushback at this point, or there's enough issues, or it's just not successful enough that they're having to step back. That's my guess, just from what I know about the situation, what I have researched. I've done a lot of UK media coverage about fat acceptance, and I witnessed the AstroTurf live over the past year, especially last year. It was really strong last year, where they were really going for it. So I'm not surprised. And I'll put it to you this way. I may not know everything about the UK, but I know that if this isn't working in London, it's probably not working anywhere. I'll put it to you that way. I know that. I think if it was going to happen anywhere, it would be there. And it's not even working. So let's go ahead and read this. Why we're stepping back from Fat Liberation London. We, Simran, Nikita, and Jade, would like to share with you, our wider community, that we will be stepping back from the organizing of Fat Liberation London. We are currently supporting the community through this transitional phase as best we can, and attended a community meeting recently to discuss our reasons for stepping back and explore what the future of this community group will look like. Our intention is for this community to continue to grow in whatever form feels most fitting for our members. It's not going anywhere. Not yet. I think it will. I think it'll die. When we founded this group in October 2023, it was born from a desire to create a radical space for connection, the sharing of ideas, and coming together in community activism. We wanted a space for collective learning and for building allyship. Our aim was not only to create an intersectional safe space for fat people in London, but also to work towards making London a safer space for fat people. Now, 2.5 years on, many factors have contributed to our decision to step back from organizing this group, but for transparency, we wanted to share with you some of the most recent and significant events that have led to this point. Oh gosh, here we go. Okay. I'm ready. The idea of Fat Lib London was always meant to be a community effort. When we founded it, our hope had been that over time it would become more of a collective but still grassroots organizing process. What we found was, though lots of people had good intentions, unless you have some people overseeing everything, the momentum gets lost. Okay. At the start of this year, we were planning an annual general meeting to create a new organizing structure to democratize the organizing power. because we recognized there were valid critiques about the hierarchical nature of how we ran Fat Lib London. We wanted it to be a more open community space. This is something we had tried in previous years, but a lot of the work had fallen back on our shoulders. By this point, we had already started to become less involved in the day-to-day organizing due to burnout. We hadn't been at events or keeping up with the WhatsApp community. Okay. I'm just like, pardon my American, but what happened? This is a lot of like disclaiming, and it's like they don't want to say what happened. So when it was then brought to our attention by external parties that there were issues with the community being less intersectional than we had been at the start, we halted progress with the AGM. We started to recognize we were the only people from the global minority on the organizing committee, and that previously very active global majority members of the community had stopped coming to events or talking in the WhatsApp chat. The issue wasn't active racism, but it was a lack of proactive anti-racism and not centering the most marginalized bodies within Fat Lib London. These had been our community guidelines and founding principles. We were heartbroken. We felt that if this wasn't addressed before the AGM, this unequal access to the community would be baked into the structure and very hard to resolve. We brought this to the organizing group and were first met with defensiveness, lack of urgency, or willingness to explore this, along with white fragility and some animosity. This ultimately culminated in some interpersonal issues between organizing members. This resulted in a lack of trust and faith in the community who we were meant to be in community of the people who we were meant to be in community with, and it quickly spiraled into cliquey behaviors, whispers, and creating a sense of division where we felt thoroughly on the outside. Sorry, I'm just starting to laugh because I have told you guys so many times that there is no fat community. It doesn't exist. It just doesn't. Any attempt at doing that, like the only thing that you have in common with other fat people, it's really just E followed by the letter D. That's it. So if they had any divides along any other lines, they're obviously not going to overcome them. If they disagree on other stuff, it's not going to work because fat people are not a monolith. So I'm not necessarily like, I don't understand all of the terms that they're using or all of the language. But they're basically, as far as I understand, they're saying that there was some racial animosity or feelings of racial animosity within the group. And I guess they just decided to leave. I guess that's all I'm getting. All I want to say is, if it wouldn't have been the racial thing, it would have been something else, because it's always going to be this competitive nature, particularly within BINGE, that side of the toxic ritualistic or E followed by letter D spectrum. So people that tend to be bigger, you want to be the biggest victim. And that's really because it helps you to continue the behaviors, basically. So you frame everything around that. And that can be interpersonally. It can certainly be politically. It happens all the time. I've told you guys many times that people that have BINGE issues tend to be obsessed with politics and religion. And it's because when you're super huge, you can't do as much like physical activity, which I know that they would never acknowledge that, but it's just the truth. So you tend to spend a lot of time in the mind instead. And so you argue those points, or you combine your E followed by letter D with those ways of thought. So you'll combine things and you'll make everything a justification. It is just so common within BINGE. I've talked about it a lot on this channel, so I don't want people to put too much stock in whatever political conversation they were having or racial conversation. I think it's just an attempt at basically picking a fight over anything. If it wasn't that, it would have been something else. That's basically what I need people to understand. I think one of the biggest traps about fat liberation or fat acceptance or anything involving fatness, period, is that people believe that they can be pleased. They believe that there's a way for it to be done where a fat person would be happy or where every fat person would be happy. That's never going to happen. They are invested in not being happy. Okay? So they'll use anything. So whether that's racial stuff, whether that's politics, whether that's religion, whether it's literally anything, it could just be purely personal. I know these days it's very in vogue to use politics, whereas like as millennials, like when Auntie was young, we would just be personal with it. So we'd be like, I don't like you because you're stupid, right? It would be more like that. But Gen Z's like, you're marginalizing this. You're not intersectional enough. You know, Gen Z just talks differently. But I think it's still personal. I just think it's like indirectly personal. That's my opinion. So that's just Auntie's opinion. But I think that they just didn't like them that much. And so they're just like, yeah, they're this, you know, because again, that's just stuff I've witnessed with Gen Z. It's like they can't just say they don't like something. It's like we can't just say we think Olivia Rodrigo's dress is ugly. We have to say that it's normalizing PDF. And I'm like, whoa, just say the dress is ugly. It is ugly. It really is. But you don't have to like say that, you know? So I think that's like generational issues combined with the TR. And then, not to be so American, as Olivia would say, but from an American perspective, the UK is very indirect, or like people there don't speak about issues directly. So it's like they're not going to say that necessarily, that they just don't like somebody, you know? So it's even more. It's like so many layers. That's what I see with this. So I'm telling you, my guess is it was personal. One, it was personal. Two, it was, I'm a bigger victim than you. That's basically what it is. And I know that line of thought, it has been very politicized, at least in past years. I know that was like a big talking point on the Republican side of things, on the right-wing side of things in the U.S., but you have to separate that from the TR and from E followed by the letter D, because it's not politics. So within BINGE, you're always wanting to be the biggest victim. That's how you compete. Within bingo, as I call it, replace the O with an E, you're not allowed to directly compete. So you have to like compete hiddenly. And it tends to be, I'm the best person, I'm the most moral person, or I'm the biggest victim. That tends to be what it is. Within other types of TR issues, it's more so framed around success. So particularly the reductive side, it's I'm successful or I'm better than you because of what I'm doing. So people tend to recognize that aspect of the TR or of the E followed by the letter D, but they don't recognize the bingo side of it, okay? Because it's still used as that same way to get attention and to get control over a situation, which I'm not surprised that people within the group are also wanting control because they have these issues. And that's the problem when your activism is framed around a toxic ritualistic problem. People are zombies, right? I've been saying that all year. And so zombie takeovers happen, and you have wave after wave of worse zombie takeovers. And it's because it's competitive and people are controlling. So when you combine controlling with competitive, it's a recipe for disaster. And like I said, in my heart of hearts, I truly believe it was personal. They didn't like them. I really do. I really do. It happens all the time. It happens even it happens in a lot of activism where people have personal issues with people and they can't work together. It's a huge issue within activism, period. But framing your activism around EFA by letter D, it's like, oh my gosh, even in something purely religious or purely political, you still have personal bullshit where people don't like people all the time, and then like things can rupture. So when you're framing it, especially around E5 by letter D, it's like, oh my gosh, it's like bound to happen, and it's just probably going to keep getting worse. So, anyways, okay. That's those cliquey behaviors, whispers, and creating a sense of division where we felt thoroughly on the outside. So they didn't like them. It took some time to begin to move through these hurts and prepare to raise this issue again. We touched base with other Black and global majority members of the community to get their feelings on the issue and arrange an in-person meeting to air these concerns and find a way to move forward. This time, things were less combative. We were able to develop some new ideas to give those outside of the cliques within the community more opportunity to make real connections. We created a Black and global majority chat within the WhatsApp community, and this allowed more people a voice. We started to explore the idea of creating locality hubs across London to generate more authentic connection and create a realistic space within which to organize mutual aid efforts. We also brought in new global majority members to the organizing committee to create safeguarding protocols for those in more marginalized bodies. However, by this point, this process, the hurts, had taken their toll. Like I said, people with EFA by letter D will never, ever be pleased. You have to understand that. It's not like this isn't... I've tried to explain this so many times to people, and people just don't get it. It is activism as a costume, just like it can be religion as a costume or spirituality as a costume or anything as a costume. It's not real. It's all about your own selfish desire to stay within your coping mechanism and to bring other people down and to compete with other people. And people don't get that. So then when people like me say something, we're so mean, we're so hateful, right? That happens all the time. All the time in this space. You're seen as the worst person. Oh my gosh, you're so mean because you said something. Whoa. But it's like, you have to understand when you are, as I would call it, a firefly on this channel, when you are somebody who is fighting obesity, basically, on a community level, so you're being an anti-fat acceptance activist, you have basically zero incentive to be nice, because it doesn't matter how nice you are, it will never be enough. And I think a lot of times people that are not in this space or are not activists or don't speak out against the obesity crisis, they don't understand that, because they're looking at it more from themselves. And that doesn't mean that there isn't a place for softer voices or for people who are, more gracious or whatever you want to call it, nicer people. But there is also room for people to be harsh too, because it doesn't really matter. Even the nicest person will be seen as evil. And you have to understand that, because it's not, these people are mentally ill. They are, truthfully, and people forget that. And if you really look at it at its face, somebody who's willing to maintain 350 pounds or higher, especially as a woman, and even as a man, honestly, at that size, there has to be something wrong in here. There's something going on. And I'm just saying, there's a lot to it. There's a lot. And people they have normalized it so much that the idea of stating that somebody who's 350 plus is mentally ill is still seen as radical, which is crazy to me. But I don't know, they got to the general population. They got people to believe that was normal, which is crazy. Anyways, okay. FLL was founded with some Fat Lib London, was founded with some really core ethical principles, beliefs, and hopes for the future. And the three of us felt really strongly that we wanted to safeguard those and make sure they continued to be embedded within the community. This desire, coupled with struggling with feeling unsupported at times, often led to periods of burnout over the 2.5 years. Well, activism is work. It is what it is. If you don't want to do it anymore, you can quit. People quit all the time. That's a thing, too, that people don't understand. I understand it because it's hard and it is thankless a lot of the time. Not all the time. I'm not complaining. I'm not getting on my complaining horse. I'm pretty supported for what I do. I'll put it to you that way because I'm pretty, aggressive in terms of you fall by the letter D. I'm very aggressive about it. And it's hard with the censorship and everything. And I don't have a dazzling personality, like all that stuff. So I do pretty well. So I'm not talking about me, but I'm talking in general. It can be that way. And it can be tough. So people quit. It happens, There's a lot of people that quit activism. It happens all the time. And people do get burned out. I've been burned out before. Okay. On reflection, sometimes we held on a bit too tightly to the organizing oversight, and we apologize for that. I don't think you needed to apologize for it. I don't know. I'm not going to critique their activism, or maybe I should. Maybe you guys would find that interesting. But honey, if you're going to lead, you need to lead. That's how I feel. If you're doing this, you better do it. It's I don't get on here and not lead. I lead. That's the job. So I don't know. To me, it's I guess they weren't cut out for it, or maybe they're ill or something, but I've had times where I feel ill all the time and I still do it. So I guess I just don't get it. I don't get it. You have to have, in my opinion, you have to have a little bit of that bitchitude to be an activist. And you have to be able to be a leader. If you can't lead, then get out of the kitchen. That's basically how I feel. Okay. Anyways. Even though after our recent discussions, there was an element of feeling more optimistic about the future of the community, in some ways we feel that the damage had already been done. I'm just quitter, which it's fine. It's good that they're quitting, but for my side of the issue, it's good. But I'm just that's me. I'm personally judging. So I will let you guys know when I am. Equally, the lack of intersectionality focus within Fat Lib London felt even more noticeable considering the socio-political climate. The world is a really rough place to be in right now, and fatness is not the only marginalization that is facing persecution, nor is it the only marginalization that the three of us face in our everyday lives. We felt now called to show support and solidarity to other marginalized groups that we also belong to. Okay, so as far as that, if they want to do different activism, I can understand doing different activism. That makes sense. But are they really going to do it? You know what I mean? That's are they just going to alley it? Allie from the Fab Fatties, where she's I'm going to do other stuff, and she didn't really do it. I don't know. It's just, I feel I wonder if it's an excuse to quit. This is just me thinking about it as an activist. So I'm just having a moment as I read this, I'm I wonder if they're just saying that, or if they're actually going to do something. If they do actually do something else, then that makes sense. But if not, then it's just an excuse. At this point, it was our understanding that the direction that the community was heading in was more of a social club space, whereas we have always wanted the core of the group to be more radical than that. Let me make sure hold on. Oh yeah, okay. I wanted to make sure I did the right one. So that can happen too within activism. But like I said, I think, sorry, I'm just this is killing me. Thank you to whoever sent this to me, because I've done other types of activism and I quit, and I'm so glad I quit. I have never regretted the decision to shift activistic goals ever. I've never regretted it. Oh my God, never. So like, but I didn't really make an excuse. I just left, or I just quit. And it just wasn't working out for a lot of different reasons. And it's like, I felt like I needed to get my health in order, and I needed to, like, it just seemed ridiculous to me. My priorities changed, and I was like, what the fuck am I doing? And if they just don't have the passion for what they were doing, if they don't care about fatness, then why'd you do it in the first place? I don't know. That's just my thought. It is what it is. I mean, people can change all the time, but I don't know. It's just, it's a weird point to me. And then they're kind of like, you can see they're personally hurt, because they're like, it's more of a social club anyway. So that's something that people say, when they're like, within activism, you say that when you're trying to put down other people. So I can translate that for you. They're shading them. They're saying they don't actually do anything. We were the ones that were doing things. And so I'm like, it just seems like it wasn't personal when I quit, or like when I shifted goals. It was just, I literally was just like, I was dying. I needed to try a lot of different things. And then I focused on what was my passion, which it was this. So I was kind of just doing a lot of stuff and throwing it at the wall. And I needed to like hone in and pick one, and like, cause I realized I'm like, you're gonna flop, or you're not gonna actually get anything done unless if you focus. So that's what I did. I focused, and I am really glad at what I focused on. I think it was the best decision for me. I think I was in the best position to tackle this issue than anything else I even thought of doing ever in my life. And I think it's been the most important work I've done. And that's that, But that doesn't mean I don't think you should shit on everybody else as you leave, at least not publicly, It's really bad etiquette, basically, to do that. And you can tell there's like a sting there. We felt that there were people in the community who really just wanted us out of the way. When each of us suddenly faced extreme changes of capacity following events in our private lives, we knew it was time for us to step back and let other people shape the community. No, they sound so bitter. And to that, what I want to say is like, if you can't lead, then don't lead. That's how I feel. Because activism is tough. I think it's very like glorified on social media, and people act like it's so much fun, or like people glamorize it, but it is tough. You have to be tough as nails. There's a lot of people that do not like me, or think I'm horrible, or I'm so mean, or whatever the fuck. And it's like, honestly, if I wasn't, I couldn't do this. You can't be a leader if you're too agreeable. And I get like, in today's society or whatever, or maybe just in general, me presenting as more feminine in a lot of ways, it's very jarring to people to see me be feminine and disagreeable enough to lead, or to be a feminine leader. It's kind of controversial in a sense. And I understand that, but I do it anyway. Because it's like, you use everything you've got as an activist. You use everything you have. And you try not to bitch about it. And you try to just move it along. And when you lead, you lead. Oh, like, if I started a group, which I don't even know if I would because I'm introverted, but I would not let somebody else take control of it. I wouldn't. Because all you do is you say, if you don't like it, then make your own. Bye. You can leave. That's what you have to do as an activist, because you're not always going to agree with everybody. I don't know. This is just like rudimentary, you know? And then, yeah, stuff in the private life. Yeah, I don't know. To me, it's excuses, or you just don't have the passion. But that's just me. That's my take. So people can think that I'm just being a bitch. That's fine. This is personal. So some of what I'm saying is personal. I'm like, yeah, okay, you know. But whatever. We shared our intentions to leave with our core community in WhatsApp, and when we weren't met with much of a response, we felt this further confirmed, oh my God, that not only was this a good decision for our well-being, but it appeared to be what the general community also wanted. What are they going to say? Like, you don't shit test your audience. I've never done that. You do not. I hate that when activists threaten to quit and stuff like that. You don't do that. I'm sorry. I'm like, this is pissing me off. I told you guys. This is horrible. It's so horrible. I think it's like too personal for them. You know, activism isn't personal. That's so hard for people to understand. You can use some of your personal stuff into it, but it is not personal at its face. Like, what a flop. Oh my gosh. In our initial announcement, we put forward a request for the community as it stands to move forward under a different name than Fat Liberation London due to the nature of our concerns regarding the lack of inclusivity of people of the global majority and people in the most marginalized bodies. Our feelings were that the shift in intention for the community keeping the name the same may be misleading and potentially harmful to future community members. We wanted to consider the association between us as fat folk with multiple intersecting marginalized identities in Fat Lib London. We worried that people may continue to expect a safe space for Black and global majority fats without an established presence of Black and global majority representation within the organizing team. We felt that as the tone and focus of the community had shifted, it made sense for the new name to reflect this. Additionally, we wanted to give the community that complete freedom to create something new in our absence and felt that with a new name would come a new beginning. It was never about taking away the core of the community, but rather allowing for a fresh start. No, you don't get to change the name. I think that's stupid. The only reason you change the name is to totally sabotage it. So it's personal. It's very personal. You can tell. This is like salty. Like, imagine, this is making me think of Paramore. I'm having an auntie moment. But when Josh and Zach, like the brothers, left the band and the band kind of broke up way back in the olden auntie days in 2010. And I was devastated and I like cried. I cried over it. It was like a moment for me. Like, imagine if they had tried to tell Haley that she had to change the name of the band or something. Like, get the hell out of here. I'm sorry. No. We understand that people feel ownership and strong connection to the name of the community they have been a part of and have helped grow over the past 2.5 years. We therefore recognize that the intention behind our request may not have been well construed, and we knew that there are many people who would like the name to remain the same. Yeah. Our only urging, if the community continues under the name of Fat Liberation London, is that there is a real effort to maintain the core principles of Fat Liberation that the group was founded under. They must create as safe a space as possible for the most marginalized groups, taking a proactive inclusion and anti-racism standpoint. Those same principles guided the logo, which was created to highlight our drive for representation and inclusivity. If this is not a direction the community wants to continue down, you have that right, but we would suggest that a new logo may want to be considered by the community. The way our time at Fat Liberation London has ended is not the way we want to remember it. We have made some beautiful friendships and connections that we hope are lifelong, but at this juncture in our lives, we no longer have the capacity, headspace, or emotional bandwidth to continue on as organizers. We hope this brings a little more clarity on the events that led to this decision and that you can see things from our perspective. We love Fat Lib London. No, you don't. We are so proud of what we've all built together, and even if it didn't turn out the way we hoped, we are so happy to have made true friends in this space and facilitated an environment where other people have made genuine connections. If there's anyone reading this that has always wanted to be involved in the community, now is the time for your voices to be heard. Be part of the shaping of the community and help it live up to its name. Fat liberation is about recognizing how our fatness is interconnected with all other struggles for liberation. Fatness cannot be understood in isolation. No marginalization can. We may no longer be directing the path the community takes, but this space is here for you. Oh, sorry. Okay. Fat Lib London has brought us so much joy and at times has been like a family. Prom was one of the best nights of our lives. Our early coffee mornings and signature picnics were so special. See, but when you do stuff like that, that makes it seem like a social club. So that's just me criticizing. Sorry, Auntie's criticizing right now. But to me, that's just like, you can't be upset if it becomes a social club if you're doing that. That's a social club. Which is fine, but I don't know, whatever. We didn't expect this group to become what it did. It was such a powerful space, but there's also power in knowing when to step back. Thank you all for being a part of this journey with us. We look forward to seeing where you take it next. See, I didn't do that. I've always been like, we are here to do the work. We're here to get it done. I told you guys that from the start. I was like, we're here. I'm here to challenge things. I'm here to say things. Like, I've framed it that way. You lead. Anyways. Wow. That was wild. Just wow. So, I've told you guys, zombies don't always get along. There's all these things that go into it. There's the competition. There's like the selfishness. There's there's all that stuff that goes into it. I have to be the biggest victim, all that kind of stuff. So I think that they just weren't prepared for zombies, even though that's literally the whole thing is framed around fat identity, which is very E followed by the letter D. So it was going to be there. And I understand that on this channel, I talk about it enough that there will be zombie activity at times, but I keep it in check because, as y'all know, I don't play around, okay? But I will talk to you guys later. This was crazy, but obviously personal. So for that, on a personal level, I'm sad that they were hurt or betrayed. I am sad about that for them on a personal level. All I can say is couldn't be me, but it happens all the time. So that does a lot of it does happen in activistic spaces, but building your activism on something as horrible as E followed by letter D logic, it's bound to. It's bound to. It's only a matter of time. But I will talk to y'all later. Have a good rest of your I can't even talk. Have a good rest of your day, night, etc. I'll see you soon. Bye.